Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an airline pilot and a member of PMDG's tech team. Welcome to episode 4 of How to Learn to Fly a New Airplane. In this episode we have just returned from our airwork from episode number 3 and we are going to start practicing touch and goes. Now, why are touch and goes so important then? I mean, you could surely just load the airplane up on the runway and start doing some of the IFR flying that you are just waiting to do, right? Well, a little bit of training trying to take off and land the airplane surely cannot hurt, and that does not only go for real-life pilots but also for flight simmers. And therefore, before we start with our actual touch and go training, let's quickly go over the procedures we will need for that. And that is going to be on one hand side, the after takeoff climb procedure, which we have already carried out once before our takeoff, but let's quickly recap it. So landing gear handle up, flap handle at V2 plus 12 and clear of obstacles up. Throttles climb descent, yaw damper as desired, so for traffic patterns we're probably not going to need it. And then anti-ice, passenger safety, landing lights, pressurization, altimeters, that is all going to stay as is. So basically it's just going to be, for our airplane, landing gear up, flaps up, and that's it. The other thing we need to have a look at quickly is the before landing procedure here. So that is landing gear down locked, speed brakes retracted, flap handle landing position, pressurization check, zero differential, autopilot yaw damper off, and airspeed at VREF. I did already have a look into the airspeed table, so for our present weight, VREF is going to be 95 knots, so we are in total looking at some approach speed in the region of approximately 100 knots. As always, if you are trying to learn a highly complicated airplane like the PMDG 737 or Phoenix A320 or maybe the Leonardo Mad Dog, it is always worth checking if there is some kind of information available on the internet on how to do traffic patterns with the particular aircraft type in question. For example, I have covered the traffic patterns in the 737, the so-called base training, on my YouTube channel, and you can find the full procedures how we do it in the airline on my channel. Now with that said, let's actually go ahead with our traffic pattern. The active runway for this one is going to be 25. We are just about on an upwind leg, so let's go into 30-degree bank angle. And the objective that we have for the traffic patterns is as follows. We want to familiarize ourselves with the airplane handling quality when we are operating at low altitude, at different configurations. And of course, we want to practice putting the airplane right down on that aiming point. And that is the most important thing that we are going to practice in these traffic patterns. Putting the airplane down on the aiming point. And that does not mean doing smooth landings or anything. All it means is to do safe landings, not smooth landings. And safe landings means within an acceptable vertical speed, right on the marker where we want the airplane to touch down. And that is what any pilot will have to learn before they are able to start with actual passenger line flying. So the airport is just about coming into sight in front of us, so let's roll out on a heading of 070, which is going to be the downwind heading. And once we pass the beam the threshold, we're going to start configuring the airplane. A final word about traffic patterns. If you're doing those in a jet, then pattern altitudes anywhere in the region 1,500 to 2,000 feet above the airport elevation is usually going to give you a good altitude and a good length of the pattern, while if you're flying a small propeller aircraft at low speeds than 1,000 feet above ground level, it's usually going to give you something nice. So we're passing a beam the landing threshold here, so let's put the flaps into the approach position. Start our speed reduction, landing gear down. During all these configuration changes, the target is of course to keep the airplane exactly at the altitude where we are supposed to be. Also, whenever possible, try to avoid flying over villages. So I'm going to do my base turn here to go right in between those villages. But that really just adds a little bit to the considerations that we are doing in real life. So that is by far not a must for learning a flight simulation aircraft. However, it does really train your situational awareness, which is one of the things that we do want to do when learning how to fly an plane. It can be pretty hard at first when you are learning that new aircraft to actually judge how high you are over the ground and how things are developing. So do pick an airport that has some kind of vertical guidance available. For example, in this case we have a puppy on the left side of the runway that we can see there, and that one is going to help guide us in on an appropriate vertical path. Alright, we are on the puppies doing 105 knots ground speed, so 500 feet a minute is going to give us that 3-degree glide slope that we will be looking for. And here we are at around about 500-600 feet a minute. Now basically keep the runway stationary in the windshield, and that is going to work in any airplane, independent of the type that you're flying. 3 reps on the puppies, correcting that, back on profile, resume the rate of descent. Now, the target with this landing is just to put it right on the aiming point, and we don't really want to make it a smooth landing or anything, just on the aiming point. Alright, flaps back into the approach position. So thrust, rotate. You're up. Pause the brakes. So looking for 12 degrees. Speed is above V2. We have safe height, so flaps up. Setting climb thrust, 90%. And let's do a left-hand pattern now. Try to keep your speed slow. If you're flying a citation like I am right now, then something around 150-160 knots is going to give you very good handling characteristics with sufficient margin in the speed to actually be far away from the stall speed, while also maintaining a decent distance from the airport for the traffic patterns. Of course, you should try to avoid congested areas, like I'm not doing right now. But then again, if you're sitting on the left-hand seat of the airplane, you usually want to fly left-hand patterns as well. So it might be a good idea to pick an airport where you can do those left-hand patterns without overflying cities. Alright, so here's our airfield. A little slow there, 160 is what we wanted. And once we're being the landing threshold, we are going to get our flaps out into the first notch and start configuring once again. I would recommend you to do as many landings as you need in order to get your airplane safely on the aiming point, but do yourself a favor and do at least 3 landings. Alright, passing beam the field, so flaps 1. Start slowing the airplane down. Gear down. Turning base. Landing flaps. Then we can also start our descent once we're in the base turn. The traffic pattern is really flown as a visual maneuver, so personally I just use my instruments at the moment for quick cross-checks while primarily focusing the eyes outside of the airplane. That gives me the best way to learn how the airplane handles overall. Okay, coming a little bit high right now, so let's resume 1,000 feet a minute rate of descent there and start our final turn. Puppy should come in any moment. There it comes. Alright, back on the puppy. Let's go 500 feet a minute for the 3-degree path. So the aim once again is a safe landing on the aiming point. Not a soft, but a safe one. And this time I'm going to try to improve my centerline tracking because I went a little bit off the centerline last time. Right, this looks good. So, and down. Perfect. Alright, flaps into the takeoff position. Drag that trim, and off we go. Rotate. Gear up. Positive rate. And we have a safe height and speed. Flaps up. Climb thrust. Let's do one more left-hand pattern. And the level off was a lot better than last time as well. 3,000 feet. Make sure the plane is in trim. We have gear up, flaps up, yaw damper not required. For the traffic patterns. Alright. So that is looking quite good overall. Then downwind heading 070. As always, the lookout sight confirms where we are going. Perfect, so this one is the third, so if this gives me a good landing, then on the fourth one I'm going to do the full stop landing. How many traffic patterns you do, as said, just really comes down to the amount of practice you need in order to get the airplane on the aiming point where you want it to be. Because that is what it's all about, doing safe landings, and of course doing safe takeoffs as well. Alright, so we'll start our speed reduction, flaps approach. And gear down. Landing flaps. And we are far enough out. Let's start our base turn. Alright, there's our runway. A little bit further out than last time, but that is alright. Now, descending back into the poppies. But don't exceed 1,000 feet a minute that close to the ground, regardless which aircraft you are flying. Alright, start the final turn. You can see I'm really mostly flying the airplane without reference to the instruments at the moment. Really flying it primarily by looking outside, because keep in mind this is purely a visual maneuver that we are doing here, not an instrument maneuver. Alright, here we are. On the profile, so let's go 500 feet a minute-ish. Quick check, landing gears down, flaps are down. Perfect. So I'm rather happy with that. So let's do one last pattern. Rotate. Gear up. Flaps up, climb thrusts. And this time we'll do a right-hand pattern again. Flying fairly fast here for a traffic pattern. Oh, a little bit of fog coming up here. Well, that is probably a very good argument actually to finish our traffic pattern flying here. Actually, this is probably good enough of an argument for me, just to switch real life weather off right now. Here we are. Alright. So we're passing beam the threshold, flaps into the approach position, start the speed reduction, gear down, landing flaps, and base turn. So it looks like we're a little bit high once again, but rate of descent not more than 1,000 foot a minute. I'm cheating a little bit by watching at the first officer's PFD right now. Alright. On glide, on center line. So this time we're going to do full stop landing. So remember that if your airplane is equipped with a speed brake, you aren't going to use it for touch and goes. But for full stop landing you have to use it. So just be aware that you might have to revise your previous procedures a little bit for the full stop landing compared to the touch and goes that you did before. Okay, speed brake up. And welcome back to Augsburg. So, vacating the runway, keep in mind to get your whole airplane behind the line. And I'm going to leave it here. So, this shall actually conclude the tutorial on your pattern work and on things you should look out to when you are practicing your touch and goes and learning to land your new airplane. I hope that you have liked this video. If you did, be sure to leave a comment and hit that like button. And guys, I know that 50% of you who are watching this have not yet subscribed to the channel, so if you do like my videos, be sure to do it now. Finally, if you do want to support the channel, then I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. And if you want to support it permanently, I would love you to become a Patreon. You can also find the Patreon link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all on the next one.